Well, welcome to the 700 Club. President Biden is looking for congratulations on his pullout from Afghanistan, despite the fact that hundreds of Americans are still trapped there, and there's no one on the ground to get them out. The president is also pledging to get all Americans out, but he's broken it, and he's lied repeatedly about everything. He seems to be somebody who doesn't have compassion. He isn't really feeling the suffering that's going on because of his action. And Democrats and Republicans are now heavily critical of the president's decision, calling the episode a, quote, debacle and public humiliation. Abigail Robertson has that story.
President Joe Biden defended his decision to leave Afghanistan before safely evacuating all remaining U.S. citizens and allies. The president claimed he's had to make tough decisions, and it was time to bring the war to a close.
For those remaining Americans, there is no deadline. We remain committed to get them out if they want to come out. Leaving August the 31st is not due to an arbitrary deadline. It was designed to save American lives, and I was not extending a forever exit.
While Biden touted the withdrawal as a success, others argue we never should have left.
We need to be invested in that part of the world.
Commander Kirk Lippold, whose USS Cole ship was attacked by al-Qaeda in 2000, told CBN News' Faith Nation the way we left was a disgrace.
There is no substitute for having those eyes on the ground that really give you that ability to understand what is happening in a society, in a military, and throughout the country.
120,000 people evacuated in 17 days, but as many as 200 U.S. citizens remain in the country, now under Taliban control.
We are dual citizen Americans with deep roots and extended families in Afghanistan who've resided there for many years. For many, it's a painful choice.
The U.S. State Department sees diplomacy as the main hope for getting U.S. citizens and allies left behind out of the country, while many Republicans are criticizing President Biden for not keeping this promise made 2 weeks ago.
If there's American citizens left, we're going to stay till we get them all out.
Also left behind, military weaponry. Members of the Taliban seen here inspecting helicopters and warplanes deemed inoperable by the Pentagon. Former U.S. Senator Jim DeMint tells CBN News we've left Afghanistan as bad off as when we got there 20 years ago.
Us to exit in humiliation is just so hard for me to swallow.
DeMint argues what's happening now is not a surprise to our intelligence communities.
We knew, especially in Afghanistan, that as soon as the Afghan army knew that Americans would not be there to back them up and pay their salary, that they would disintegrate overnight. It wouldn't happen over months. They would immediately know that the only way for them to live was to make peace with the Taliban.
And just hours after the U.S. completed its withdrawal, al-Qaeda congratulated the Taliban on the takeover of Afghanistan, with both groups seeing this as a moment to incite and recruit new members to the global jihad movement. Pat?
Evan, what are members of Congress doing to help those stranded?
Well, members of Congress on both the left and right side have been critical of the Biden administration's efforts to get people out. And they've been working with former veterans who are vouching for some of the Afghan allies that they say are good people, are translators. They need to be protected and not abandoned in Afghanistan. These are some people who have applied for the special immigrant visas back in 2013, 2014, and have been stuck in the backlog of the bureaucratic process. So they've been doing their own efforts to working with nonprofits who are chartering flights, chartering buses, and they are evacuating thousands of other people that were not on the U.S. military flights that we saw. And they've been doing this long before the U.S. withdrawal officially concluded this week, and they plan to keep doing it. They have pledged to leave no man behind. And Congressman Michael McCaul told CBN News that this has really been a parallel government effort. And we're going to have more details on what they're doing, the countless hours they've put into this work later this week on the 700 Club.
Thanks, Abigail. Thanks for your report. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a president who is either mentally deficient and is in senile dementia, or one who is totally heartless. One of the stories coming out, one of those translators actually rescued Biden when his helicopter crashed in Afghanistan, and he went in and brought him out. That man was left behind. It is absolutely heartless what this man is doing. And whether it is selfishness, whether it is greed, whether it is just totally heartless, we don't know what it is. But it shocks me beyond measure, and it should all Americans. And you say, well, we've got this guy and Kamala Harris, we've got two incompetents running our government. And how long are we going to have to suffer? Well, there's nothing can be done unless there's no way that you can invoke the 25th Amendment, unless the cabinet, his cabinet goes along, which it won't happen. And impeachment is just nonsense. It can't possibly take place. So we just need to call upon the Lord, deliver us from evil. Well, in the news, from the fight against COVID, one of the impacts of the contagious Delta variant is how it's spreading rapidly among children. That's leading more school districts across the country to require students to wear masks. And what about the rights of parents to object? Medical reporter Laurie Johnson takes us into that debate.
Millions of children are heading back to school. For many, it's the first time in over a year they're gathering in person, something medical experts say is much healthier for the kids than distance learning.
Being in a school, it makes me feel this feeling, this very happy feeling.
Educators worry, however, that in-person instruction will need to go virtual again due to widespread COVID-19 outbreaks. Pediatric cases continue to rise, with more than 204,000 reported last week, 300 kids a day being hospitalized. In South Carolina, Mystique Goodwin's daughter, Amari, is fighting for her life.
I'm just glad right now because they did take her out for medically induced coma. We still have a long road to go.
In an effort to minimize infections, many school districts are considering mask mandates, some getting considerable pushback from parents. Unmask our kids! Mask mandate arguments at school board meetings getting emotional, even physical at times.
All of this on live television.
Further illustrating the divide, a Gallup poll shows 48% of parents say all students should wear masks at school. 41% say no student should be required to do so, and 11% say masks should only be required for unvaccinated students. 9 governors have outlawed school mask mandates. 4 of them now face legal challenges. The other 5 face an education department investigation on whether outlawing those mandates discriminates against kids with compromised immune systems and other issues.
We know the spread of COVID happens when masks are not being used.
The CDC says based on recent data, school districts should require masks. But some, like the Heritage Foundation's Doug Badger, says that data is flawed, arguing the infection rate among kids in schools with mask mandates was not statistically significant compared with schools where mask use was optional. Dr. Chris Winter is one of a number of physicians who says wearing a mask at school is worth the effort.
Is it going to prevent every bit of community spread of a Delta variant? Of course it's not. Nothing that we know of can. Can it slow or hinder the progress of something of that nature? And I think the data is absolutely there. It's not debatable, really. I mean, masks work.
Pat, proponents say masks may be the difference between in-person learning and shutting down the schools, something no one wants.
Oh, Laurie, why are some parents so concerned about masks, and what are their options?
Pat, it all boils down to parental rights. A lot of parents are saying that a parent should decide what is best for their child. So it's important to note that people who are against mask mandates aren't saying that all children should go unmasked. What they're saying is if you as a parent feel it is best for your child to wear a mask and remain masked all day at school, then by all means do that. But if I, as a parent, feel what's best for my child is to be unmasked and remain unmasked all day at school, then I should have the right to do that. So it's, again, parents should decide what's best for their child. It should be noted, Pat, that the American Academy of Pediatricians does recommend universal masking at schools. But again, a lot of these parents say, I know better than my child's doctor what's best for my child.
I understand the administration has announced that 2 of the top FDA vaccine regulators are leaving. And what is the cause of that?
Well, that's right. 2 FDA advisors who advise about vaccines who have been there for many years quit, allegedly because of the Biden administration's announcement about booster shots. You may remember not too long ago, President Biden came out and said that people are going to need booster shots 8 months after they are fully vaccinated. Well, some people inside the FDA apparently said that the data really isn't there to support that announcement. Furthermore, the Biden administration said that people will be able to start getting their booster shots in the middle of September after the FDA approves that. And the FDA is saying that that was undue pressure being put on them to approve these booster shots when the data might not really be there, Pat.
One last question, Lori. What percentage of young children have actually gotten COVID? It's just infinitesimal, isn't it? Or am I wrong in that?
Well, the numbers are growing. We know that last week, 204,000 children tested positive for COVID-19. And so we're seeing a lot of spread among children that we didn't see before with the other variant. Remember, this Delta variant is a completely different beast. And we're seeing a lot of hospitalizations at children's hospitals. Some of the ICUs are full of COVID patients. But this is the debate. Are the children really that much at risk? One thing we know for sure, Pat, is that in-person learning, getting those kids there together in school is so much better for them than the distance learning. And a lot of people are saying maybe masks might keep the kids at school, because if we see tremendous outbreaks, then the schools will be closed and the kids will be sent home for distance learning. So that's the concern. You know, a lot of parents are so frustrated about the idea of their kids having to wear masks at school that they're turning to homeschooling. We've seen homeschooling double recently in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, from about 2.5 to 5 million parents. We always saw a little bit of an uptick in the years leading up to the pandemic because of things like school shootings and violence and bullying and the things that the kids are being taught about sex and American history. And so that's something that we're seeing a lot of parents do because they're just so frustrated with the whole situation. They're just going to homeschool.
Lori, I want to thank you for your insights.